Just like to ask you to come back and please take a seat again. I think we got off to a great start this morning, and now we've sort of divided our day into key topics, and we're starting with the first application, or one of the first applications for hydrogen for mines, which is in transport. And we're going to start off with two case studies and then a panel discussion. I'll just mention that some of the presentations from today we will have available to download shortly after the conference. So to start us off, and to cover the topic of testing hydrogen transportation solutions, it's my pleasure to introduce Fahmida Smith. Fahmida is Market Development Manager for Impala Platinum. And for the last 5 years, she's been focused on beneficiation projects for implants and also sits on various fuel cell committees.
Thank you, Adrian, for that warm welcome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fahmida Smith. I'm the Market Development Manager at Impala. So, fun fact, before this, my title was Fuel Cell Coordinator. I think it was such a mouthful that I decided to rather change my title than to explain what it is that I try to do. Okay, so my presentation is focused on testing of hydrogen transport applications within mining. I'm going to very briefly take you through who we are as an organization, why we as an organization as well as a country are interested in hydrogen. I'll then go through our fuel cell forklift and refueling projects. This will be followed by the challenges that we experienced and my view on barriers to large-scale adoption. I'll also talk about other developments that we're looking at and potential opportunities within the South African context. So this slide just says that I'm highly opinionated, and please do a complete due diligence before making any financial commitments. Okay, so who we are. We are miners, refiners, and marketers of base and precious metals. Our organization spans the eastern and western limbs in South Africa, and we also have mining operations in Zimbabwe. We have two refineries that's based on the East Rand in Springs. Our base metal refinery, the removal process is based on the Sherrod-Borden process, and our precious metals refinery, or the platinum metals refinery, as we like to call it, has the selective removal of platinum group metals through ion exchange and proprietary molecular recognition technology. So, very interesting fact about our refinery is we utilize hydrogen in all our metal reduction processes, and for this we use large amounts of very pure hydrogen on site. So why are we interested in hydrogen? As a country, most of you would probably know that South Africa houses 95% of the world's PGM reserves. The platinum mining sector in particular employs around 170,000 people, and this has a 10-time multiplier effect. The mining houses, however, not all of them have been doing very well, and in recent times have announced large downsizing activities. So if you look at changing global legislation around carbon emissions, you would see this would have an even more detrimental effect on our markets and could potentially impact our autocatalyst sector. So through various beneficiation forums, we have identified as a country the fuel cell value chain as an opportunity for adding value to our mineral resources. Okay. So, deep level mining in South Africa uses a lot of heavy-duty diesel equipment. And because of this, diesel, as we all know, releases diesel particulate matter, which is carcinogenous to the environment. And rightly so. So, the government has got very onerous legislation around DPM emissions in the country. Now, if we consider, when we sink a mine shaft, we have to sink a parallel mine shaft to accommodate ventilation and cooling requirements that is dictated by government. But this increases our cost of capital, it increases our maintenance costs, and it also increases our unit production cost, which when an organization you're not really performing very well because of depressed metal pricing, and your costs are going up, etc., you do have additional challenges that need to be focused on. Also, the mining houses are moving towards the concept of zero harm. And because of this, there is more and more interest from everyone to consider safety, health, and environmental factors in all our processing facilities and all our operation techniques. The South African government, through the Department of Science and Technology, launched the Hydrogen South Africa initiative. This was in 2008. The project is currently in its third phase of operation. So the first two phases were concentrated on research and development techniques to build hydrogen capacity within South Africa. And I'm very proud to announce that they've entered into the phase where they're looking at commercialization of South African innovation and moving this forward into the commercial space. So this is a major driver for us, is this capacity that's built. As an organization, at Impala, I've explained to you, we use hydrogen on site. So what you see in front of you is our hydrogen refueling station. I would go as far as saying we are very privileged in having a 110-kilometer pipeline that comes from the very south of Johannesburg to the very east, where we are based, and supplies us with 99.99% pure hydrogen. We get 6 tons of hydrogen that's delivered to us on a daily basis. We only utilize around 60% of this hydrogen capacity at present within our processing facilities. So this provides us with a unique opportunity to trial and test hydrogen applications. Apart from this, the experience that we have developed and the skills that we've developed, our safe working procedures over the last 50 years of dealing with hydrogen, it allows for a mind frame that allows easy adoption of the technology. We don't have the challenges of trying to overcome the mindset of, oh my goodness, I'm going to get on this thing and I'm going to blow up. We don't really have that. So it's really given us the unique opportunity within the context of our refinery to be able to test technologies. So all of what I've told you has culminated into the development of our fuel cell roadmap. Our fuel cell roadmap is a collaborative process that is supported by the South African government, by various departments within the South African government, and it's also premised on the fact of building long-term relationships with local and international OEMs to drive this particular process. Our ultimate aim for this roadmap is to reignite industrialization within South Africa, to build skills, to create jobs. And we plan on doing this through several demonstration projects. We've looked at stationary, mobile, as well as R&D projects, and the focus of this presentation will be the mobile applications that we have developed and tested. So, like I said to you, we are a platinum mining company, so we sell platinum into the market, but we're also a toll refiner. And the residual platinum that you have within your fuel cell system is something that we have opportunities to be able to reprocess. So our fuel cell forklift, this was a collaborative project between Impala, the Department of Science and Technology, the University of the Western Cape, and HISA Systems. Impala basically looked at this particular project because of our hydrogen that we have available to us, and we looked at utilizing it within our base metal refinery within forklift trucks. So what you see in front of you is actually the movement of our copper dispatch. We use forklifts for the movement of material in our base metal refinery for our nickel, copper, and cobalt. We have approximately 30 forklifts on site, and in this particular area, I think we have around 12 forklifts. So the intention was to look at the prototype and then systematically introduce fuel cell forklifts within the rest of our refinery. The design of the forklift. So we didn't go out and design the forklift, nor did we design the fuel cell. Our technology was the novel metal hydride that was on board for storage, as well as the metal hydride technology within hydrogen compression. So what we did was we integrated the novel metal hydride technology within an existing forklift and an existing fuel cell system. And that's how we built this particular setup. The project was commissioned in October 2015 and officially launched by the Minister of Science and Technology in March 2016 and has been operational in our base metal refinery since that particular point. We had 4 critical success factors that we needed to measure against. The first one was to reduce diesel particulate emissions. The second was to provide a cost analysis that was either equivalent to the diesel drivetrain or better. The third was to ensure that refueling could be done after a shift. So your hydrogen needed to last you for a single shift. And in addition to that, we also wanted a reduction in noise levels. With the operation within an enclosed dispatch unit and the number of vehicles that we have running around, our employees have to wear hearing protection all the time. And that was one of the key factors of how do we improve the ergonomics around the project. So when we compared the fuel cell forklift to the diesel forklift, immediately, as soon as you started the vehicle, you could see the difference. The one has this large amount of black smoke coming out the exhaust, the other doesn't have an exhaust. You have little bits of water dripping out. There's 0 emissions. So that particular criteria. Noise levels. We actually had a 15 to 16% reduction in noise at maximum load operation between the fuel cell unit as well as the diesel unit. Even at maximum capacity, there was no legal requirement to wear hearing protection while driving this particular system. So we met the criteria around noise. We ran the system. We have around 688 hours of operation on the fuel cell unit, and we have over 4,000 hours of compression on the system. We have just over 800 kilograms of dispensed hydrogen that we used within the system. It hasn't all been roses. We have had a few issues with the project. So one of the key issues was when the battery failed on the unit. So we have a battery power that in the event your hydrogen is depleted, it gives you sufficient power to drive to the refueling station to refuel. That failed, and it took us 3 months to get a replacement battery from the US. We also had an issue with dust ingress into the actual forklift body as well as into the fuel cell unit itself. That resulted in short-circuiting of some of the motherboards in the system, and that needed to be replaced. That also took us between 3 and 4 weeks to sort out because we needed a technician from the US to fly through to South Africa and come and assist us with this. In addition, during our last service, we had the cooling pump. It was at its end of life. That failed. It was just Murphy's Law. As we were closing up the system, it just seized, and that took us another 3 months to repair. But that is very easy for us to overcome. We've managed to get critical spares. It was actually delivered 2 weeks before I'd come through here. So we do believe that that is in hand. However, we do have issues around how do we manage technicians on site. From a cost perspective, Impala invested 2 million South African rands over a 3-year period for this particular project. Of that investment, 2/3 of the money went into the development and capital cost of the forklift, and the other third went into the development of the refueling infrastructure. So from a cost perspective, the infrastructure cost us around 1.9 South African rands. I think that's like $130,000 US, which is very cheap. So even as a prototype, we already tick the box of meeting cost when it comes to the infrastructure. But like I said to you, we are privileged. We have a pipeline on site, so that really helped us. The metal hydride technology, with operating at the lower pressures, because our system operates at 180 bar, makes it a lot more cheaper to construct as well. So we had a saving when it came to that. From a design perspective, as well as third-party monitoring and approvals, we tried to stick with international US standards. So we didn't receive any cost saving there, but there is potential to bring down this cost even further. From a TCO analysis, because of the fact that we have pure, clean, and dare I say, cheap hydrogen on sites, it's really helped the TCO evaluation. So the 11% saving that you see there is purely attributable to the infrastructure. The current issue that we still have is around the actual cost of the capital that's invested in the forecast. But yeah, we do see a saving. So this was also a different avenue that was met. In terms of the refueling, sorry if I can just go back to that. I said to you that our criteria was that we needed to refuel after 8 hours. With the onboard hydrogen storage and the additional capacity that that gives us, we only refuel once to a maximum of twice a week. So that exceeded our expectations when it came to refueling. So from a critical success factor, this project has ticked all the right boxes. And it's something that we are very proud of. The next phase is how do we get it into commercialization? So one of the things we looked at is bringing down the price point of the fuel cell equipment further, and what you see in front of you is the development of a local power module. This was done in conjunction with HYSYS Systems and a local company in Cape Town called Hot Platinum. The local power module has been successfully commissioned and integrated within a second forklift. We're busy testing it at the moment, and we expect delivery on site later this year, where we will then continue running it through our facility and doing proper industrial testing on it. We have seen economic gains within this particular system, and we have reduced our costs slightly through the local power module. What we did use was a commercial stack, and we're now looking at how do we backward integrate a South African component. We have additional collaboration with other technology innovation centers and universities around the world. We're currently participating in the Marie Curie EU RISE program. And the idea here is to focus on hydrides for mobility, also looking at commercialization, how do we improve the efficiency of the technology, and how do we decrease the cost of the technology. So from a technology readiness perspective, you'll see it is at a very high TRL level. We're currently in discussion with various departments in South African government, as well as local and international OEMs, to look at how do we get this product to commercialization. In addition to that, and that is one of the key areas, is getting the economies of scale. So as Impala, we can commit as a start to 30 forklift units, but that's not enough to drive a successful business case. We need to be able to get additional demand in South Africa, and that is something that we're currently working on. So barriers to adoption. You all see that, it's a number of buzzwords that I just threw together, no I lie. Policy framework fits into the center of everything, and as much as we all complain that policy framework is not where it should be, I would like to actually give accolades to South Africa. We do have commitment from the highest levels in government towards fuel cell technologies. And dare I say, we actually see convergence between the various government departments in supporting fuel cell technologies and platinum-based technologies within a green energy sector. In saying that, however, I do believe there still is a long road to walk. There's a number of issues that we can do better. like a more structured overall country policy that looks at addressing issues around government support. And I do understand that there isn't the money to throw around, but how do we structure government spend to help facilitate this process? So as much as mining houses are putting their hands up and saying, well, I can commit to so many vehicles, how do you look at government doing a similar kind of thing? In addition to that, I think additional educational support focused on the development of local technicians is quite important. I spoke about the HISA program. It's a brilliant program. It looks at developing master and PhD students. And every time I need someone to do a service on my forklift, I call out one of the PhDs. They fly all the way from Cape Town, come through to Johannesburg to help me with this, and I've got to pay for their PhD rates as well. So how do we better facilitate education within the country to ensure that we have the right level of skill at the right price point at the right place? When we talk of cost of capital, obviously with a new technology, it's always high at the onset. We all understand that economies of scale is going to drive this cost of capital down. And I feel here, government-to-government relationships is going to be very key in that. So from a geographical perspective, South Africa is advantaged as it has direct access to the African markets. And in unlocking that potential, I think we need to leverage our SADC relationships and networks better to be able to get to the levels of economies of scale. From a hydrogen cost availability and infrastructure perspective, we are unique. We have a lot of this in place, but if we take our operations in Rustenburg, there's absolutely nothing. There's no gas infrastructure, there's no gas available, but that is where the numbers are. Those are where the heavy-duty vehicles are. That is what the area that you should be targeting, and there we have nothing. And once again, that requires huge amounts of collaboration. It requires enabling policy framework. It requires international government-to-government relationships that will help to reduce price points around hydrogen generation and hydrogen infrastructure. And then funding. We heard earlier through the panel discussion about discounted funding. I have yet to find that, I have to say. I'm really sorry, but working on this for a very long time now, and we've really struggled to find developmental funding that meets these project requirements. So that is something that is still very difficult. I do believe that alignment and collaboration, where we all throw the little bits of money that we have into the same pot and have a concerted effort in directing what we want to achieve, might be a better way than trying to find this elusive funding. And I'm going to touch on that slightly now. So through our stationary projects, we looked, because we have hydrogen on site, we also have natural gas pipeline on site. And we thought the combination of hydrogen and natural gas is awesome when it comes to fuel cell technologies. It gets the message of PGM-based technologies out there, and we can now go and retrofit generation capacity and basically take our refinery off grid. We looked at doing it in a systematic approach, and we said, fine, we have hydrogen available for just around 1.8 megawatts. We have natural gas available for 8 megawatts. That's still within the upper limit requirement for an environmental impact assessment, and we can go and implement this and then look at the next phase of a further 12 megawatts and take us completely off grid. Unfortunately, even with criteria like NPV neutral, that is NPV equal to 0, having an over-the-fence PPA over a 20-year period and having your financial model have the luxury of a 20-year period, we couldn't find external funding that helped us to meet any of those criteria. We couldn't get to a point of NPV neutral. Getting shared risk within the project was also a little bit difficult. as the end user, everyone expects you to carry all the risk, all the costs. It just becomes less and less attractive at the end of the day. So without alignment, shared risk, and a proper strategy on what you're trying to achieve, are you going for a reduced carbon footprint, a zero carbon footprint, or a renewable energy source? It gives you a totally different perspective of what your organization would like to accomplish. So we found it very difficult to get this. This particular project has been put on hold, and we'll probably relook at it in the future. In addition to this, we looked at underground mining equipment as well as buses in our Rustenburg areas. Also, very similar criteria to the previous project. As you can see from the bus perspective, you could use hydrogen almost immediately. There was a cost saving compared to the diesel units. We have 42 or 49 buses that we own, and we basically just use it to move our people on a 3-shift basis, and it basically runs the entire day. All they do is transport people from the hostel to the work site, from the work site to the canteens, back to the hostel. So these systems operate quite heavily through the day. We then looked at a load haul dumper, or an LHD, that is the working horse of our mining organization. And I'm sure all of you know exactly what an LHD is. There's a photograph on it. It just basically picks up material and dumps it in the back. It doesn't do anything fancier, but it is crucial to our operation, and it is one of the larger sources of DPMs and heat generation within the mining platform. When we looked at this, we had several issues. So from a mine frame perspective, and from integration of the technology, and from a change management perspective, it was very difficult. We're dealing with a totally different workforce, even though we're within the same organization. At refineries, we're using hydrogen for the last 50 years. At the mines, when you talk hydrogen, you're going to kill us all. We don't even want you to come and have this conversation. So it's a very different idea, and that's the reason why we looked at a methanol water system. And that has proven to be economically viable. However, it's not aligned with what the rest of the world is doing. And if we are aiming for a zero carbon footprint, it doesn't accomplish that. So there's a number of issues that we've experienced. We kind of put it on hold to reevaluate our position and to see how best we can relook at it. The initial idea was, if we have a methanol water refueling infrastructure for the LHDs, it would make better sense to do exactly the same thing on the bus rather than develop a hydrogen infrastructure. But those are things that we need to consider. The Rustenburg region, as I said, has got nothing, but it does have a lot of sun, lots of it, and a lot of available land. So there's potential to be looked at. But how do we overcome the safety challenges of utilizing hydrogen within very confined spaces? So there's an opportunity if you have a commercial solution. Okay, in terms of R&D development, there's further work that we're doing with HISA. This is work that we're doing with HISA Catalysis, the University of Cape Town, and HiPlat. This looks at the development of platinum on carbon catalyst as well as iridium catalyst. Now, the way we looked at these projects was through a metal loan structure to the university, so it costs them nothing. It costs us basically nothing. We give them material, they do the development. We have been IP neutral in this. We don't take shares within the IP. We try to create an enabling environment that allows for these partners to want to work with us, and once the development is done, they either return the metal in the form of the catalyst, the MEA, or the effluent, and we then reprocess that and recover the metal. So it was a very good working arrangement that has proven to be successful. The catalyst, the MEA, is commercially viable. We are integrating it within a fuel cell stack. The next phase of this, the contracts are actually being signed at the moment, is for a small-scale stationary demonstration, also at our base metal refinery, because we have the infrastructure, the hydrogen infrastructure, to be able to accommodate this. And then lastly, We, as Impala, will be donating approximately 16 hectares of land adjacent to our refinery to the South African government for promulgation as a special economic zone. This zone will be focused on the manufacturing of components that utilize PGM-based products, focused on fuel cells and its value chain. The advantage that the SEZ has is it allows certain incentives that other companies will not. It has a very reduced corporate tax that the South African government allows for. In addition to this, it creates an almost duty-free zone in which manufacturers operate. The Gauteng Industrial Development Zone, or the GIDZ as we refer to them, are working with us on this project. They basically develop all the bulk infrastructure as well as the top structures required for the manufacturing facilities. And anyone who establishes within the area has an option to then lease these facilities at a very preferential rate. So from a cost perspective, we do believe that this then gives manufacturers an added advantage that can help bring down their price point. Where we are on this land at the moment, it has been approved by the Minister of Trade and Industry as an SEZ. We've completed the technical and feasibility studies on this piece of land. We're currently in discussions with various potential investors and occupants, and there is a gazette out for comment at the moment on this land. So hopefully it doesn't come back with anything too strange, and then it will be officially promulgated. The purpose of this land, as I indicated previously, is to reignite industrialization and manufacturing within South Africa. It's there to help us build South African skill and capacity, and more importantly, especially when you look at our mining sectors and the job cuts that are planned, it's to provide job opportunities for people to reinvent themselves through reskilling and upskilling programs to be able to participate within this framework. As I've said to you, this is a collaborative process. These are the number of partners that we've been working on our fuel cell roadmap, and I would like to thank you for your kind attention. Thanks.